this is where things went wrong. Also, mostly it was family decision than a collective cabinet decision. That is why things went wrong. And when they were professionals advising the country and the government to do the right thing, they never adhered to any of these requests. They were on their own and doing what they wanted and what they felt that was right. That is where things went wrong. And today, the whole country, the 22 million people of this country, are today suffering due to scarcity of food, kerosene, petrol, diesel, gas. All this has become a problem, and even hospitals are still suffering without medicines. That is why I appeal to most of the countries that we need immediately, what we need is milk powder for our children, we need fuel, we need medicine, asking everybody to do whatever you can to save Sri Lanka as a nation.
Thank you, Mr. Salley. Also, the new Prime Minister, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, is appealing to foreign aid to the IMF for funds into this country. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually speaking, when the crisis occurred, as a politician, I was the only person who predicted long before Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe even thought of it or the government thought of it. I said the only person to take this country forward is Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. Not that Mr. Wickremesinghe is a fancy to us, not Mr. Wickremesinghe is a fancy to anybody. Mr. Wickremesinghe had been the Prime Minister 6 times. This is the 7th time he takes over as Prime Minister because his experience and his the acknowledgement from the foreign countries is very much higher. And also, he has entered Parliament as a nationalist MP on a bonus seat. He has nobody to look after at this moment. He is one person in Parliament with one party representative. As one party representative, he has come in. And if you just, I was blaming him that he should have entered Parliament 6 months before. That I have been regularly at my press conference, I have been telling that he should have come 6 months ago. Because from the day he came in, if you will see the answer and if you see the record and the suggestions that he have made in Parliament, you can see that he is the only man who had a vision for the country and was telling the Rajapaksas also what should be done. Even he was the one who was also like us, he was also insisting on the government to go to the IMF because there was a crisis. And the last 500 million bond, everybody in the country, all right-thinking people of the country said, do not release that bond because that was a bond by some people who were in the government or who were the catchers of the government who have been involved in that bond. And if that money goes out, there is the black money to be made white. So we told them, we explained to them and told them, but they never listened. The central bank governor and the then finance minister Basil Rajapaksa released that money. Now it has come to light, and now people are questioning in court. Now they are gone to court and asking the central bank to declare who are these people who have taken this 500 million. So there is a big issue coming up in these courts, and you can see orders given by the court preventing the former central bank governor from leaving the country, then the finance minister to be questioned. All these things are happening, and today you can see the whole country moving into courts for various wrongdoings of this country and getting court to give orders and to ensure that the Rajapaksas are answerable to the mess that they have created at this moment.
So, in your opinion, sir, when will the economic crisis stabilize in this country? How long do we have to wait for things to return to normal?
I think when you say Mr. Wickremesinghe just took office, and what we saw with him is the confidence that he has with the international community. Today, if you see the G7 countries have very categorically stated they have accepted the proposal by Ranil Wickremesinghe and they are going to support it. You can see Boris Yeltsin, the UK Prime Minister, making a statement that he will make Sri Lanka an export-oriented country and we will support them in every effort that they make. So likewise, if you see the international community, the IMF, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, everybody talking about it and the confidence they have got in Mr. Wickremesinghe. That's what when Harin Fernando made a controversial statement when the media questioned him that why Sajid Premadasa having 38 or 40 members of parliament when he wanted to become the prime minister lately, where he always decides late. 5 days he was given the privilege of taking over as Prime Minister. He never made a decision. Fifth day, when he heard that Mr. Wickremesinghe was going to be appointed Prime Minister, at 2 o'clock in the evening, he sends a letter, I am ready to take over. Then he was told, very sorry, we have already committed. Why this is? And the ambassadors of Sri Lanka, whoever the foreign country ambassadors, had rushed to the president and told, at this moment, at this juncture, we feel that Mr. Wickremesinghe must be the Prime Minister and we have confidence in him. We will deal with him. We will assist him. So that is how Mr. Wickremesinghe was made Prime Minister. It is the international community that felt that he is the only person who can take the country forward. And today, within the very short period, we have seen the petrol queues reducing. We can see the gas queues reducing. People's suffocation has reduced to an extent. I'm not saying it is fully settled, but it will take time. It will take at least 6 months, at least another 6 months for things to settle down, because the dollars have to come. So from where these dollars are going to come? See, all what we need at this moment is a stable government, a country which all communities can get together. It is the duty of everybody to make some sacrifice because of the present crisis. So this collective thing will only bring Sri Lanka back to normalcy.
You quite rightly said that united we stand, and we have to be a collective force for the betterment of this country. So can I ask you, sir, what are your tips or your advice to the people of this country while we are sitting out this economic crisis? What are the things that we can do to make our own lives better and the lives of fellow Sri Lankans?
See, the first thing that I will advise all our people is Sri Lanka needs a systematic change. That's number one. Then we are a tourism-oriented country and economy. We need a stable government and we need stability in the country. All that is the most important priority. Third one is our target should be a 5 million tourists that will come into this country. Our tourism, the target is about 5 million a year. If we can achieve that, we will get $10 billion. 10 billion will be our target for the tourism industry. That is how we can build the economy. And if you see, the external loans that we have is only 52 billion. Only 52 billion. So we will require, if we are going with Mr. Wickremesinghe's policy, if we are going to be a tourism-oriented country with other countries and the assistance of the IMF, World Bank, and all that, we will be doing very well, and we will be able to repay all these loans within 6 to 7 years and get rid of this whole thing. And we will have, definitely, with all the targets that we are doing, we can have a $7 billion balance in our account, which will be excess to all the settlements. Why I say this is, when we gave this country back in 2019, we had $7 billion in the account. So this was the situation at that time. But wrong management, mismanagement, and unnecessary policy decisions by the present government created this scenario, created this situation, and today the whole country is suffering.
Now, the government has said that the COVID-19 pandemic was also responsible for some extent, for example, by scaring away tourists from this country. What are your thoughts on that, Sally?
No, actually, that was a worldwide thing, not only Sri Lanka, everywhere. But only Sri Lanka suffered like this. If you take Bangladesh, they are progressing. If you take India, they are progressing. If you take Mali, they are progressing. If you take all the SAARC region, even Pakistan for that matter, even with this situation, and even with the overthrow of Imran Khan from the government, with all that, only Sri Lanka suffered this. But that was totally mismanaged. Even COVID was mismanaged. Actually speaking, people who were fancy towards the government, who were the stooges of the government, they were given the tenders of bringing things down. They were given all the tenders. All these privileges were given to them. That is why Sri Lanka suffered. We were never transparent. If Sri Lanka had been transparent from the beginning, like I said, from independence, without each party coming. See, what happens is, Sri Lanka does not have a national policy. This I have been stating for the last 15 years. If you go back to all my speeches or all my TV debates, I have always stated that not only bringing all communities together, but Sri Lanka must have a national policy that it must be there for at least 10 years. No government will come and change it. Here, what happens is you bring the 19th Amendment and say no dual citizen, but you change it to 21, you bring dual citizen only to accommodate your brother. By accommodating one person, what happened to the country? The country is in ruins. So these are things that I'm saying. So there should be a collective decision. There should be a all-party leaders sitting in parliament, making the national policy, which could not be changed for the next 10 years. That is how Sri Lanka can go forward. And if you will take Sri Lanka's total expatriates who are working abroad, their their monthly earnings they sent to Sri Lanka is 700 million. That was the total they sent in 2018. What happened today? Today, not even 350 million is coming here. People are not sending money. Why? People are using various other means of sending money. So these things have to be streamlined. You have to have a disciplined society. We have to have a stable government. All this must be told and put into effect. So I think Mr. Wickremesinghe is on right track, and these things are going to happen. And if we can plead with other countries, and that is what the Prime Minister has already done, we are also doing that. These things can be sorted out, and also we will ensure now export. If you take Sri Lanka's export, we are targeting a 3 billion export. $3 billion export. Then the FDI 2 billion. With all that, we feel that we can have a 21 to 22 billion dollar our annual this thing. And after repayment, also we are definitely sure that we can save $7 billion. If you are a disciplined country, if the citizens are disciplined, if the party leaders are disciplined, and all together we can build Sri Lanka back. There is no issue.
I 100% agree with that, sir. Also, what are the chances of Sri Lanka doing business with Russia right now? Because of the Russian war, a lot of countries are averse to doing business with Russia. So can we jump in and use this as an opportunity to trade exports like oil and so forth from oil and gas from Russia?
See, earlier Mahinda Rajapaksa did deals with Iran when the sanctions were there. We got oil from Iran, right? Now, if India can get oil from Russia, why Sri Lanka can't get it? That's the question. So why are you not opening up these avenues and talk to these people? Because definitely you can have a very long credit period with Russia. Why I don't understand why we should not be doing. A country that is suffering, country that has been very close to Russia, country that has been working with Russia. So I don't see any problem why we should not. If India can get, the neighbor Sri Lanka also can get it. So that needs a diplomatic this thing, that we will have to talk to these people and ensure that we also can do things.
So
Like
basically,
India.
according to what you're saying, the international sanctions that the West has imposed on Russia, it doesn't affect the Sri Lankan Russian trade.
No, definitely not, because we can also explain to the international community that if you will help us, why should we go to Russia, right? Like Iran did it earlier to us. So we will also now, there is a huge payment that we have made to Iran also with Mr. Rajapaksa taking so much of oil from Iran at that point. We have not settled that also. That is also there. But what I'm saying is, now if our neighbor India can do it, why can't Sri Lanka do it is my question. So the other things is left to the government to negotiate and to come with a proposal, talk to the international community, also at the price that we are going to get it. These are things that can be negotiated with this international community.
Also, Mr. Salley, now Boris Johnson has come up with the plan of transitioning from non-renewable to renewable forms of energy. Can we do the same thing in Sri Lanka, given our current domestic energy supplies?
Yeah, why not? I mean, this is very, very important. Now, if you take India, fuel, it is only 90% and 10% is ethanol, right? Now, if you take Brazil, it is Brazil is almost 20% ethanol and 80% fuel. I mean, why we can't think about this now? Renewable energy is the most important thing. Windmill, right? We will go to windmill, and then those are things that we can think of. And renewable energy, especially for vehicles, right? Then, as you have questioned me on this transport thing also, all this will be compiling with the renewable energy. Now, if you take our proposal, the Prime Minister has already made, is to have the RTI, the RT train service from Japan. That was something that the Prime Minister suggested when he was the Prime Minister earlier. The present government that came and they stopped it completely, and they said we are not interested, and Japan became an enemy of Sri Lanka due to that. Today we are renegotiating. So if RTI can start off, there is a light train proposal by Japan that will take us in a big way. Most of the fuel crisis, the fuel export, the fuel import, all that can reduce to a very big level if we can get the Japanese proposal and accept the light train proposal. So that is one thing that we can immediately think of.
Thank you, Mrs. Salley. Now, on another note, during the protests, a lot of the youth were heard saying that they feel that the government has let them down in some way. Do you agree that the future of the younger generation is in the hands of the leaders of Sri Lanka?
You see, I will not comment because I am a person who does not belong to the older generation or the younger generation. I am just in the middle, right? So, what I will say is, as I told you from the beginning, is from independence, this country has been failed, right? That is because we were always thinking of party politics. We were always interested in seeing that our party is the most popular party, and we do things to favor our people. And these type of thinking should not never be in this future. But this young generation's protest has created a big scenario in this country by asking the Prime Minister to resign, the cabinet to resign, the Rajapaksas out of it, all that. Now the only thing they are fulfillment, they're waiting for their fulfillment is the president to go home. That is why they are covering the presidential secretariat and demanding the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. But the entire party leaders who met and decided have today decided it's not going to be easy to send the president off at a time like this. We have to wait. But what we are planning is to get the 21st Amendment there, reduce the power of the president by way of giving more power to Parliament. So this is going to work, and I think today the decision has been arrived by all party leaders that we will go with the 21st Amendment. Once the 21st Amendment is done, we will get back to the 19th Amendment, where the powers of the executive presidency is reduced. Today, if you see, even the pardoning of criminals or murderers by the president has been challenged in court, and that person has been taken into custody. So these are things that are happening with independent judiciary. This is what Sri Lanka wanted. Sri Lanka wanted, and especially the good governance government approach to the people in 2015 was very, very clear. Because they said, these are the requirements of the public, and we are going to fulfill that. And that was fulfilled. That is why I always say the Ranil Wickremesinghe, Maithripala Sirisena government would have been the best government for this country, because if not for the misunderstanding those two had, this country, they would have gone at least for 25 years without a problem, because in that 5 years, we never had all these problems. I mean, there were no shortages. The prices of gas cylinder was just 1,200 rupees. The petrol was so cheap. All these had subsidiary. But now, today we have come to one decision that we are going to buy petrol, and that same market price will charge from the people. So by that, the losses have reduced. By that, the people's transportation, most of the program that they were doing or going or all that has reduced to at least 50%. Right? By that, by the petrol prices going up, the government's burden has reduced. That is the most important thing. Now, at this moment, country should support the government only to bring down the burden, because it should not be a burden. This subsidiary had been a problem. That is what the IMF had right throughout be saying, that all this subsidiary has created more problem for the country. So I think we are going on the right direction at this moment. And today, from the time Mr. Wickremesinghe took to today, if you see, the petrol queues have reduced, the diesel queues have reduced, the gas queues have reduced. Not that I'm saying 100%, no. To an extent, at least 75% it has reduced. And today, things are getting to normalcy. That's why I said it will take another 6 months. for us to have a stable government and to have a simple and a normal life that each person is willing to do. That will be done very soon.
Also, Mr. Salley, can you tell us about the Azaath Salley Foundation that you founded? Because this is a foundation that distributes food and dry rations among the less fortunate in Sri Lanka throughout the year. Can you tell us what steps your foundation has taken to help people during the current economic crisis?
See, whenever there is a crisis, we have been in the forefront and we have been helping the people in whatever we could. Azaath Salley Foundation is a foundation of very close friends. We don't go public, we don't go international, we don't go begging with any other countries or any other NGOs or nothing. We just an organization with support from friends and relatives. These are things that we collect and then we distribute to the people. And there are people who will call us claiming for something, medicine, hospitalization, school books, school uniforms, shoes, all this. Whatever request that we come, we have not said no to anybody. We have always 75 to 80%. We have always fulfilled whatever we can do to help the needy. That is the motto of this thing. We always look at what it is. We send our people to go and see. If they make a request, also somebody will go and see their place. If they are really required, we will then and there support them to see that they have a better life and to ensure that people live with dignity and people without any poverty. That's our target.
Now, Mr. Salley, what is your reaction to how the government responded to protests?
Government and the Prime Minister has very clearly said not to touch the Go Home campaign. Number one. Number two is you saw the damage that was caused to the country on the 9th of this month, last month. Why did they do that? See, this was a very clear indication. If temple trees, if you know the roads and all that in Colombo, you will see from the Prime Minister's office to Galle Face, you have the Galle Road. If the police had covered it near the Indian Embassy or after the Indian Embassy, nobody could come to Galle Face. That would have been the scenario. But it was a pre-planned thing. It was informed to police. Now there is a big argument whether the IGP was told, whether the IGP told the senior DIG, and the senior DIG was seen with the local politicians. He was walking with them up to Galle Face. So all this happened, and we see the disaster that took place by a wrong decision. Just because somebody wants to be in power, they thought by coming and assaulting the peaceful protesters at Galle Face that they can win over this. What happened? Finally, how many houses were burnt down? How many vehicles were burnt down? How many state machineries were burnt down? Who will pay for this? And whoever who did it should ultimately think this whole thing is coming to the government back. Now, if you take, now see a minister proposing that all these houses must be built immediately. Is this our priority? Is this our priority? What is our priority? And now I heard the president asking the UDA to release 100 odd houses that were built in Pandipitia to the MPs, right? At 1.7 billion. 1.7 billion which has been built to be just given to these MPs and to take over the previous place where they were living and to renovate that or to put up a building and all that. But why at this time? If you can recover this 1.7 billion by selling these houses, Sri Lanka's economy and the things that you have to do for your immediate things can be meted out. That is where we should be going into. I think the president's idea, the prime minister should speak to the president and immediately put a stop to this, because this is not our requirement at this moment. If Mahadivala housing scheme for the MPs, they can surely wait there for the next 1 year, 1.5 years, till the economy is put to a stable situation, and sell these houses that are already completed to the masses, whoever is giving you the high price, or you have a price fix, sell it and make cash. These are things that can be used for our immediate medical supplies. People are suffering without food. You can give them. Today, see, when the Sri Lankan Central Bank governor made a decision that no open document will be there, no DP terms, no DA terms will be there for LCs and all that. I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister and told, don't do this. Because if the Prime Minister's calculation was within the next 3 months, there is going to be food shortage in the country. I have been telling about the food security for the last 1.5 months, and I said, and wrote a letter to the Prime Minister and said, sir, this will be only for 10 more days. If you don't allow this system, which has been going on, there is more than 500 containers lying at the port of Colombo. If you don't release these are things that have come on open document, DA terms and DB terms. If you don't release these things, those are food items. You can't be just holding on to that. This is what the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration was doing earlier. 1,500, 1,200, 1,700 containers were there. It was not being released and all that. Those are the things that created scarcity, the shortage of food. Then the prices increased. All that totally mismanaged. So when I told the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister immediately, they have said 396 items. A list has been put out by central bank that they can go on the same system that they followed. Yeah, you have to discipline society, because what they say is the central bank governor is more concerned about this money going in different other ways without going through banks. Okay, to go through banks, you must have the dollars. If you don't have the dollars, let the people who are import on an open paper, open document, let them import on a DA term of 3 months, 6 months, DP terms. All this can be done, and you have to first fulfill the requirement of the masses. That if you don't understand, you can't be the governor of central bank. You must understand that. What do Sri Lanka need at this moment? You must have food without any scarcity. Food must be available for people. There should be fuel in the country. There should be kerosene in the country. There should be gas in the country. You must have uninterrupted electricity in the country. That is why we have been crying and shouting and telling this government, you have to go into new theories. You have to go into new renewable energy. The windmill, we have to go solar. We are not doing anything. All the proposals that came, we were just waiting because we were making money on petrol, import of petrol. Somebody was making money, somebody was making money on different things. So they were not allowing the solar system to be already connected to be paid or anything like that. So these were all due to some people with the powerful politicians trying to block and stop all the developments in the country. If you go to the BOI should be an independent organization, not to get proposal not to get approval from the minister or anybody else. That should be independent to see whether Sri Lanka. Now, if you go to Dubai, you give the proposal within so many days, your proposal is given approved. No politician, nobody comes in between to interfere. Here, what happens is, whose project, who is bringing the project? That project person has to go and meet the Minister of Finance. He has to share his thoughts with him. He has to give him the santosam. Then only things will work in this country. No, this has to stop. It must be independent. This is why the new good governance government was heading for this only. That is what they were doing, and that is what they did. The independent judiciary, the independent commission, independent bribery commission, everything became independent. Also the RTI, right for information. These are the most important things that the people wanted in this country was given to them. They came, destroyed everything overnight. This is where we went wrong. So this is where the people must understand giving over power. I mean, giving over power or becoming communal was a disaster to country. We saw Mr. Bandaranaike becoming that. We saw Mr. Bandaranaike coming and declaring single only language. What happened? Dr. Colvin R. Silva said, one language, two countries. Two language makes one country. See how long ago he said it, and today it has come right. Now, likewise, this government also came and told openly that we are elected by the Sinhala Buddhist community, and this is a Sinhala government, and this is how we will behave. And what happened? The curse of God came to them. Nothing but the curse of God. You see, while sitting, we were telling them after the COVID cases came up, when the minority Muslim community, some people, about 300 odd people, when they got COVID and when they died, we asked for a peaceful and a burial for them. That is what we requested. What did they do? There was a lady called Metika. She became the most vociferous person. She is not a person who knows anything about geography, nothing. But she took the upper hand and told the government, if you bury them in Mannar, Within 3 hours, it will come to Colombo, she said. That water will come into Colombo. So this type of mentality only we had in this country. See, never it happened. And even to go to Mannar, it take about 10-15 hours for you to go to Mannar. And this lady says you bury in Mannar, the water will come to Colombo in 3 hours. So these type of people, finally what happened? The person who advised the government about that, she is the number one today in the Gota Gama and wanting Gota to go. And today a media, in one news, twice they put her and give publicity to her. She is talking against the Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government. So this is Sri Lankan politics. This is how professionals also have behaved. We saw some doctors also. Soon after this government came, they were in and out of that place and they were only advising the government. So what I said was, wrong people were giving the wrong advice. Wrong militarymen. Militarymen are good at war. Like Imran Khan saying, I have always been saying in all my interviews that like Imran Khan saying, we don't blame the generals, but they are one-track minded. You show them the hell, they will capture it for you, but not run a country. This is why I've been telling all these people right throughout from the time Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And last time you would have seen my tweet, I have also called upon all the generals who are holding, who are retired generals. They must be allowed to go and rest. All these guys are today secretaries of ministries and governors doing nothing. President is going and checking all these places. That also has stopped because President can't move out anywhere. Only in a bunker he can be there. But I am telling the President, go and see what the governors are doing. Doing nothing. Now a governor means there is no provincial council. He's the most powerful person. What he can do? He can move with a lot of foreign countries, get more aid and develop schools. You saw the O-level students sitting and doing the exam paper with an umbrella. When I resigned as the governor, there were 381 schools without roof. I had arranged everything to do up these roofs with the private sector. We don't want government money. We can run these schools without any problem. But what happened? Air Force person was brought in. What is he doing? Nobody can do anything there. He doesn't come to office. He doesn't sit in office. These governors don't work. So who is looking at them? Who is checking at them? Nobody. Because you don't have a country with any law and order here. You don't have a supervisor who will go and supervise. What are the generals doing? You just imagine the generals will be definitely 65, 67 or 70 years old. These 70 years old guys go as secretary to a ministry. Can they run about and do some work? No. So the president, I have asked for their resignation, but the president must now at least by the new appointment, two powerful secretaries have not been reappointed. That is good. But what the people of this country want is get these fellows out. They ask them to tender their resignation. The generals resign, and the common man, there is a pool of educated secretaries in this country. They are not given their place. Their due place is not given. So definitely, most powerful president of the Sri Lankan century, if you take Gotabaya Rajapaksa, within 1.5 years, the government is finished. Why is that? It's a curse of God. Nothing but that. This is what happened to Sri Lanka. So now you change your attitude. Now you have to bring everybody together, all communities together, and let us all work together to bring back Sri Lanka to the previous glory that we had.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salley. Right now, we have to go for a short commercial break and we'll be right back after that. Don't forget, you're tuned into, of course, Relax Radio Beyond Frequencies. And this is Politics 2.0, a sober political reveal with Mr. Azaath Salley, with me, Sean Adams. Thank you for joining us on this program. You can call or text us live on air on 078-524-73473. That's 078-524-73473. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok so that you can stay tuned to everything that is currently trending. So on that note, I'll be right back after a short commercial break with Mr. Azaath Salley. Thank you for joining me on Politics 2.0, a sober political reveal. Hello and welcome back to Relax Radio Beyond Frequencies. You are tuned into Politics 2.0. This is where we are talking to eminent politicians about the current economic crisis. And joining me today is Mr. Azaath Salley, former mayor of Colombo. And we are talking to him about his thoughts on the crisis. Now, you yourself, if you're tuning in, you can call us or text us on 07852473473 if you want to have your voice heard on this program. Also, make sure that you follow us on social media, on our Facebook and our Twitter and YouTube pages. So let's move on into the very next question. Mr. Salley, thank you again for joining us on this program. I want to ask you now, how do we prevent something like this happening in the future? With the new prime minister elected, how can we prevent a similar economic crisis and government mismanagement of funds occurring in future?
I mean, what has already happened. Now, what we have to do is, as I told you, is to give Mr. Vikramasinghe the full powers to do it. Now, especially SJB coming at this moment and saying 2 weeks have passed, what have you got? What have you done? No, this is not magic for Mr. Vikramasinghe to show. SJB must know that if their leader takes over, nothing of this even would have been done. That they have to accept it. All political parties have to now think that Mr. Vikramasinghe is the Prime Minister and shed all your differences, all your community, your race, all that. You leave everything and your political party and only think, put this country into a stable situation. This is the most important thing that I ask from all the 225 parliamentarians. Because when the Gotagama youth is asking for all 225 to resign, what we are saying is, okay, now things have changed. The Prime Minister has resigned. We have the cabinet resigned. We have a new cabinet. But the same lot would have come from the SLPP. But a selected lot, not everybody. But you can see it's a national government today. This is what I predicted 1.5 years before going to jail. Before the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration took me into custody, that was the last video that I put out asking for a national government. This is what angered them. And also, now, if you don't get together, if you keep criticizing, this is not going to help anybody. Because what we want is everybody to be happy in the country. The small person, the big person, the rich person, the poor people, the middle class, everybody must be happy. For them to be happy, let us all get together and put the country in a good footing. That is the most important thing. So leave your petty politics aside, right? You only support Mr. Vikramasinghe because Mr. Vikramasinghe is on the right track at this moment, and all countries have already pleaded that they will support Mr. Vikramasinghe. The G7 summit has already decided that we will accept Ranil Vikramasinghe's proposal. That is what is the most important thing. Foreign recognition and the support. If the Rajapaksas had been there, and especially the 21st Amendment, if somebody is trying to sabotage the 21st Amendment, that is going to create more problem for them. Now, when Dayasiri Jayasekara, the General Secretary of the SLFP, very clearly told at a seminar to everybody that people around the minister's house, you be there to only ensure that your MP goes and vote for the 21st Amendment. But some MPs of the SLPP took it wrong that they are asking, our houses are already burnt. Why are you trying to say like this? But he never said or meant that to go and burn their houses. All what he said is to go and ensure that your MP comes to Parliament to support the 21st Amendment. What is this 21st Amendment? It's only to get back to the 19th Amendment, which has given more independence to Parliament, more power to Parliament, reduce the power of the President, is that we need. We need somebody responsible. So if the whole 225 parliamentarians are going to be responsible for the country, they have been elected by the people. So let them be responsible and let them decide, because they are the people who will make the legislation and they are the people who will be bringing proposals. The cabinet will be approving and the Prime Minister will be working. So we have to give the Prime Minister the free hand because he has a vision for this country. Now he's the only person who has, now when everybody was asked to take over, nobody was prepared to take over. But Mr. Vikramasinghe took the challenge. Being with his sixth-term Prime Minister, with his experience, with his international recognition, with the friendship that he has gained throughout the countries. So they have also voiced their concern that we will support him. So now let all communities, whether we like it or not, we have
Mr.
to
Salley,
support Mr. Vikramasinghe.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
You just mentioned that Mr. Ranil Vikramasinghe has a vision for this country. So can I ask you to explain what are his solutions in the short term and in the long term to handle the crisis?
Yeah, now that is what, if you see, what he says is, at this moment, the stock of gas, fuel, food, everything must last at least 3 months stock. This is his first vision. That is where we are all telling that everybody should join hands, because number one is our priority is the food security. If you don't have food security, where are we heading for? People will be dying on the streets. We can't allow that to happen. We have now today, if you take the daily wage earner is not making any money. People who ate 3 times a day are only eating once, because if you don't have imports, if containers don't come into Colombo port, and if it doesn't come to the Peta market, there are people who are going to die. So many people, so many families are living on that, right? So everything, if you take all these garment factories, all these industries, if you don't get your raw materials and the industries will not work, the owners will be compelled to close down their factories, industries, and tell the workers to go home. They will have no money to give. Then, as long as Mr. Basil Rajapaksa was here, what was he doing? Only printing money. Only printing money. So everybody said, don't do this. Did they listen? They never listened. So see, now again, even the present Prime Minister says, we have to print at least another 1 billion to immediately pay salaries of government servants. So if the government servant is not paid, if he stays at home, or if he is compelled to stay at home, that without salary he can't work, what will happen to that family? So we have to look into these things. These are things now, because of his connections. Now when the World Bank gave a loan, and he was able to speak to them and say, can I use this for fuel? They said, yes, go ahead. Can I use this for medicine? Go ahead. Like that, you must have that relationship inbuilt. You must have the relationship between the international community and the Prime Minister. This is what Mr. Vikramasinghe is doing. In the short run, what he wants is to educate food to the people of this country, to give them fuel, give them the gas. There should not be any interruption to electricity. You saw the GC O-level students, they were suffering due to the electric the cuts that were going on, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. How can you run a country like that? So now whatever that has normalized. Now it has come up to 1 hour only. We have adequate rain this time. So these things are coming into shape. So from the time Mr. Vikramasinghe took, there is a thing that we can see something happening. There is light coming up, right? We can see the tunnel, the light coming up. So these things are getting back to normal. So at this moment, you don't pull your leg and have press conference and said, what have you achieved? What did you get? Have you got that? Have you got this? No. What have we got? Not what have you got? What have we got? It should be the question, and that should be the answer also. Let us do it together. Let us all support to bring in the 21st Amendment, get it passed, bring more power to the Parliament. That's the most important thing. From there we go on. And then if you see the local, now you don't have the provincial council, you have the local government. What I will suggest to the government is, that is another burden that we have, the local governments. Now we have extended that time by another 1 year. I say no, you dissolve all these councils at this moment and just hand it over to a commissioner to run the councils, because that will save a lot of money, lot of corruption. All this will end there, and the next 1 month there will be so much of savings in the local authorities also, by just having these councils functioning with corruption. If you take the international, if you go into forensic audit of most of these councils, what have they said? These councils must be dissolved immediately. The money that is due from the public, not from the public, from the people who are doing business with the council, is running into thousands and thousands of millions. More than 3 billion rupees is due from the contractors who have taken over parking in the Colombo city. All these issues are there. So if you dissolve this, those interference won't be there, and the authorities can come and take all this money, claim all this money. That will bring in more money into the country. That is the most important thing. The private sector, you think that the private sector doesn't have the money? They have the money. It's not coming out. Where are the dollars? They have the dollars. You put it to them in the right way. That's what I told the Prime Minister, to make a request to the entire world. asking all the Sri Lankans who are working abroad and their friends to contribute towards Sri Lanka's economy, especially for food and medicine. Go to the Sri Lankan embassy. You make $100 contribution, $50 contribution, $20 contribution, $10 contribution. Even if you make with your friends, you go there, get a receipt. If not, there also they will do something. Because they are the Rajapaksas are also there as ambassadors and all that. Their families are there. Get them to go and contribute. Get a receipt for that money, and ensure within the next 1 month, I am sure we'll get $1 million without any problem. The Sri Lankan community is so rich to contribute. They will contribute once. All what they say is that we will contribute to Sri Lanka, but the Rajapaksas have to go. So there are no Rajapaksas except for one. So now it's time for people to go to the embassies and start contributing for the cause of Sri Lanka and for the suffering of the masses in Sri Lanka, only for food and medicines. Like I appeal to all the other countries, all the Sri Lankans abroad, even my friends in Australia called me and told me, so we are collecting medicines. We'll send this as fast as possible. This is what we need. We want everybody to work actively. By you doing something, you're saving the lives of somebody. You're
Mr.
saving
Salley,
somebody's life.
Mr. Salley, is there any way that we can mandate that sort of contribution, or we can set up a sort of government scheme by which people can contribute to such a scheme as the one that you proposed?
Yeah, this is what I want every TV station, every radio station to do this. Because when we see a good cause, when you have a TV program and say this on TV, people are contributing for that project. No, more than what you require, people have funded all these projects. In our life, we have seen that. So likewise, Sri Lanka is in a situation like this. We need dollars. We need dollars for what? To make our people live. Number one is our food. Second is our medicine. These two, if the hospitals can function without a problem. Now the doctors have called me. They have given me a list of medicines that they require. I can send that to you, share it to you. You all can make a sound on that worldwide. Get these people to give us something. Even $1. You see, somebody was telling me in the university, if there are 300, my daughter is in a university. She told me 300,000 students are there. I said, just $1 will make $300,000. Start a campaign. Everybody, every Sri Lankan in a university, every Sri Lankan who is working somewhere, everybody start a campaign of your own to save Sri Lanka or to save Sri Lankan lives and medicine. These are the two things that I will ask for. One is food and medicine. If this starts and Sri Lankans start contributing and handing over it to the embassy, and every rupee that you hand over, ensure that you get a receipt from the Sri Lankan embassy there and send it to the country so that we can come out of this problem as soon as possible. That's my appeal to everybody.
Also, Mr. Salley, now on May 23rd, 2022, you said on your Twitter account, all retired major generals holding officers in the present government must resign immediately as they too have failed very badly. Can you explain what you meant by that statement?
That is what I told you earlier. All these generals, if you take their age, they're all 70 years or more, right? Can they do a job of work? Can they get up and walk first? Can they run somewhere? Can they run and do something for the country? No. So they have failed. So what they must do is, they are getting a good pension. Whether they were in the army, navy or air force, they are getting a good pension. Take your pension and go and relax. Do that without ruining the country. We already have a army person who is the head of state, and he has failed. So you too have failed, and that is why most of the departments are not working properly, right? We had a army general who was the head of the consumer authority. What happened? How many gazettes were issued? All the gazettes that were issued was withdrawn. You were putting a maximum retail price on some food, rice at this price, that, and within 24 hours, the same gazette. I think this government will be on the Guinness Book of Record very soon, because they are the ones who made the highest number of gazettes and the highest number of withdrawals. They will be on Guinness Book. This is the state of affairs in the country. So this is why we are telling they must resign. They must allow, because you see, this, even to become a doctor, you are sitting a specific exam, you are studying for that, and you become a doctor. You have been holding the gun right through your life, and you have been an army officer. So your mentality is only that. You can't administer a country. This has been proven today. In Pakistan also it is proven, in Sri Lanka also it is proven now. So now it is best for you guys to, on your own, before somebody, now as Gotabaya Rajapaksa has already reduced the number 2 without reappointing them. So before that happens, respectfully resign and go. This is my request to all the generals who are holding secretary's post, because administrative secretary, right? They are people who are qualified to do the job. They have been sitting exams, they have qualified, they have come the long way, and today all of them are in the cool room. All these generals are running, and these administrative secretaries are today just looking up and taking the salary and going. They're in the cool rooms. So why this? So you give the devil the due. He is taught, he is brought up, he has been trained, he has gone for seminars, he has done everything to be a good secretary. So allow the secretaries to do their job, and the generals go home. Like Gota go home, we are saying secretaries go home. They must go.
Now, Mr. Salley, is there any way that we can recover the funds that have gone missing? And also, is there any way to legally prosecute the guilty parties?
Actually, a very good question. The problem is this: even in the case of Marcos, if you take, right, how many years this investigation went and how much they have recovered. But here, whatever you have to table these things in Parliament, right? Now, some people have estimated at 19 billion, some people say it is 30 million. Various figures are given, but you have to have proper records of those things. What and what, where did it win from, where did it go, who has taken, on what deal did they take? All this has to be investigated. So that will take time, right? You can't be doing anything overnight, no. So these investigations have to be done. They have to prove. They have to be taken to a court of law, and from that recovery process has to start. So we can only hold a special presidential commission or a parliamentary commission to investigate all the wrongdoers, present or past. Present or past. Everybody who has been involved in corruption and who has made undeclared money, all these can be investigated and then bring into justice. This is what has to be done.
So, just to recap everything that you said so far, you are very you believe that Russia is a potential source of wealth right now, despite the sanctions that the West has levied on it. And also, I think what I really love about what you said was that it's all about uniting, because together we are one and united we stand. So, can I ask you again? Assuming that Sri Lanka set up a sort of governmental welfare scheme by which Sri Lankans can donate to each other, how successful would that sort of scheme be in the long run to empower the lives of Sri Lankans?
I think that will be one of the best projects. Now, if you take the if you take the Janasavya program that was initiated by President Ranasinghe Premadasa, and also the foster parent scheme that he started, right? You see, all those things were a success. Everybody living in Sri Lanka and outside Sri Lanka, they were prepared, and they took over 10 children, 20 children, they were looking after. All those things just went, all those things were destroyed by the Rajapaksa administration. So now getting back, and what happens? Somebody starts something good, you have to continue in that name. What you do, just to avoid that person getting the claim, from Janasavya you come to Samurdhi, right? Like that, you have changed the name 3 times, right? Lalita Turaj started the scholarship for the university children. So those are good things. So take the good, leave the bad. This is what I've been saying. Everybody at every time. Take the good, leave the bad. But you have to have, right? What I start, I will come to the end also with that. What Sri Lanka needs immediately is a national policy. This national policy should be with all political parties sitting together and making it, and not to be changed for at least the next 10 to 15 years. If this is achieved, Sri Lanka will go a long way. And also, the project that we discussed is to ask everybody to contribute to Sri Lanka towards food security and medicines. This will be one of the biggest projects that I see, that if all media institutions can go with this campaign, and everybody, not only Sri Lankans, but there are foreigners who is ready to give $100, $100, $1,000, $1,000,000 also. There are people who can give that also. We have to approach them. Our approach should be very genuine and very transparent. If these things will happen, there will be a lot of people coming, and specially a special program, a one desk shop must be put in to have these investors coming in and without any problem to invest in Sri Lanka. This is the most important thing. Tourism is the other one. Now, like you say, if this tourism is to improve, all these protests have to stop. For the protests to stop, you must adhere to the demands of the people. Their demands must be fulfilled. And today, 80 to 90% of the demands have been fulfilled. We have an administration, we have a national government that has come in that will fulfill the rest. I definitely have hope that Mr. Vikramasinghe, within the next 6 months, will bring back our old glory and make Sri Lanka a very powerful and a very important nation in the SAARC region.
Thank you, Mr. Salley. Now we have come to the end of this interview. So, can I ask you to conclude with some words of advice to everyone tuning in, generally speaking?
Yeah, like I call upon the government, I call upon the people of this country. Forget your race, creed, your religion, everything, and let us all stand united as Sri Lankans. Our motto is Sri Lanka, and make Sri Lanka a wonderful country. A country that everybody will look upon, a country that people will want to come, a country people love to be, and we will ensure the safety of everybody who comes into this country. That is our target, and let us all work together to make Sri Lanka a beautiful country, and also ensure that everybody who loves this country, we invite you to come, and your safety is our priority. That will be our motto, and we will all work together, and we want every Sri Lankan to contribute something towards the food and health of this country. Please start doing it right now. Everybody, 10 people get together, 20 people get together, everybody together. The Sri Lankan community, you have your organizations in those countries. You all get together and immediately start working. Collect some medicines, collect some clothing, collect some food, send it to Sri Lanka, and ensure that we all live happily. That is my last word towards this discussion. So I think it is the duty of this TV radio station also, not only to finish this interview like this, but this appeal can go right throughout and on, because people are very generous. People want to contribute. Anybody who comes for help, Sri Lankans have always been helpful. And that is the attitude of the Sri Lankans, and that is the mindset of the Sri Lankans. We have always been a helping hand. We have always been helping somebody, and will continue to do so. I think Sri Lanka can come in back to its glory as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salley, for those words of encouragement. Because I 100% agree with you. It's all about unity, and together, I'm pretty sure if we all unite hands as a country, like you said, we can rise out of this crisis. So we have come to an end of today's interview. One more time, I would like to thank you profusely for agreeing to join us on this program. I know you're a very busy gentleman. So thank you so much for joining us to offer your thoughts on the economic crisis. By the way, if you're tuning in, this is Relaxed Radio Beyond Frequencies, and you are tuned into Politics 2.0, a sober political reveal with Mr. Azaath Salley, who was talking about his thoughts on the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka. I'll see you again next week. But before we go, I want to remind you, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And also make sure that you remember our number. It's 0785247343. You can call us anytime on the program if you want to join in and be a part of this show. So one more time from the Relax Radio Studios, thank you, Mr. Salley, and thank you everyone who joined us on this program. I'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.